Our hesitation is that if there's a person in there that will just say yes to everything, I mean, it will set us back.
That you're not fit for this job. What you need to do is you need to step down. The sooner the better, because this has gotten way, way out of hand.
Rachel Ruelas, the mayor of Mabton, has been arrested, or at least that's what the rumors are saying. And while the headlines might seem too wild to be true, the truth is even messier. From budget scandals to physical altercations and now whispers of corruption landing her in legal hot water, Ruelas' story is spiraling out of control. But here's the twist. Her saga is drawing comparisons to another embattled leader, Tiffany Henyard, the controversial mayor of Dolton, Illinois. Both are accused of running their towns into chaos, and their stories are eerily similar. What really happened in Mabton? Was Ruelas arrested? And how does she stack up against Henyard's drama? Let's break it all down.
Mayoral candidate will be on the general election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who is...
First, let's dive into the scandals surrounding Rachel Ruelas, starting with the recall petitions that are threatening to end her time as mayor. The first petition was filed by 4 city council members, accusing Ruelas of failing to provide a final budget for 2024 and using the city's website to promote her business, Forever Bridal and Decorating. If that wasn't enough, a second petition was filed by a Mabton resident, Ruben Olivares, adding even more serious allegations, including that Ruelas raised her own pay illegally and blocked the council from accessing legal advice. Both petitions have been deemed sufficient to move forward by a judge, and if her appeals fail, Ruelas could face a recall vote as early as next year.
A mayor caught on camera in a brawl with citizens at a local restaurant, including the man who filed a petition to recall her as the mayor.
What's shocking is how many of these accusations point to a complete breakdown in leadership. One of the most damning claims is that Ruelas left Mabton without a legal budget for 2024, effectively paralyzing the town's ability to spend money. Without a budget, the city can't pay bills, manage its finances, or even properly operate. In court, Ruelas reportedly argued that adopting a budget wasn't her responsibility, a claim the judge flatly rejected. This alone has left many residents questioning how the town is supposed to function under her leadership. But the chaos doesn't stop there. Let's talk about the infamous fight at My Casa restaurant that has everyone in town buzzing. According to court documents, Ruelas, her son, and her husband were involved in a physical altercation with none other than Ruben Olivares, the resident who filed one of the recall petitions against her. Witnesses say the fight began inside the restaurant and spilled outside, where things escalated dramatically. Olivares claims he was attacked by all 3 members of the Ruelas family and that the mayor's husband even approached him with a crowbar. Ruelas, on the other hand, says she was merely trying to break up the fight. Regardless of who's telling the truth, this incident has only added fuel to the fire, with Olivares now pressing assault charges against the mayor and her family.
Last year, Mabton City Council failed to pass a budget by the end of the year, and they spent 11 months of the year spending money without a plan.
And if you thought this couldn't get any messier, think again. Mabton residents are already frustrated with ongoing issues like poor water quality and financial instability, and many blame Ruelas for the town's struggles. At a recent council meeting, residents called for her resignation, voicing their anger over everything from the budget fiasco to her alleged misuse of the city's website. The Ruelas, however, has remained defiant, insisting that the town's problems are due to dysfunction within the city council, not her leadership. It's not a mayor problem, it has been a council issue, she said in an interview. But critics argue that her refusal to take responsibility is only deepening the divide.
Well, the crisis in Mabton has reached a breaking point last week as residents expressed frustration over poor leadership, an empty police department, and an unresolved 2025 budget.
This brings us to the arrest rumors that have been swirling around Ruelas. While she hasn't been formally arrested, the allegations against her, ranging from budget mismanagement to potential misuse of public resources, have led to speculation that legal consequences could be on the horizon. And with a second recall petition adding even more charges to her plate, the possibility of an arrest isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. Whether or not this happens, the damage to her reputation is already done, and her future as mayor looks increasingly uncertain.
My grandparents were assaulted, and I believe that the cops should have came onto duty and taken the report first.
Now let's talk about the comparisons to Tiffany Henyard, the controversial mayor of Dolton, Illinois. Like Ruelas, Henyard has faced accusations of putting her personal interests above the needs of her community. Both women have been criticized for financial mismanagement, with Henyard under federal investigation for questionable spending and Ruelas accused of leaving Mabton without a legal budget. And both have clashed with their councils, creating a toxic political environment that has left residents feeling neglected.
Well, she's one of the most recognizable faces that's been on the news lately. I'm talking about the mayor of Dolton, Tiffany Henyard.
And all of social media.
Yeah.
But the clashes with their councils go beyond policy disagreements. They've turned into full-blown power struggles. In Mabton, Ruelas has repeatedly been accused of refusing to collaborate with council members, ignoring their requests for transparency, and even failing to provide crucial documents for meetings. Some council members have suggested that Ruelas deliberately obstructs their efforts to hold her accountable. This dynamic has left Mabton's government in a constant state of gridlock, with residents feeling like their voices are being drowned out by political infighting. Similarly, in Dolton, Henyard has been been accused of attempting to sideline her trustees by canceling meetings, refusing to cooperate on budget discussions, and even filing lawsuits against them. Critics argue that these tactics are less about governance and more about consolidating power. Henyard's scandals are just as jaw-dropping as Ruelas's. She's been accused of embezzling money, targeting political opponents, and using taxpayer funds for luxury trips. One report revealed that her office spent over $40,000 on Amazon purchases in a single day with no explanation of where the money went. And if that wasn't enough, Henyard has also faced backlash for allegedly rigging elections and blocking her opponents from appearing on ballots. Sound familiar? The parallels between the two mayors are hard to ignore.
It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Wow.
Let's talk about the title of this, because it's called Super Mayor, and that is what Tiffany Henyard calls herself?
Henyard's spending habits have also raised eyebrows for other reasons. In one instance, she was reported to have spent tens of thousands of public funds on a sparsely attended concert. Residents have questioned how these events benefit the community, especially when Dolton is facing a multi-million-dollar budget deficit. Meanwhile, Ruelas has been criticized for approving a pay raise for herself at the end of 2023, before the city had a finalized budget for the following year. Without a budget, council members have argued, there's no way to know if the city could even afford the increase. These decisions not only highlight questionable priorities, but also fuel suspicions that personal gain is being prioritized over public service. But perhaps the most striking similarity is their defiance in the face of criticism. Ruelas has repeatedly blamed Mabton City Council for the town's problems, while Henyard has accused her critics of orchestrating smear campaigns against her. Both have refused to step down even as their towns spiral into deeper chaos. In Henyard's case, protests against her leadership have become a regular occurrence, with residents demanding accountability and change. Meanwhile, in Mabton, residents are left wondering how their town can move forward with a mayor who seems more focused on defending herself than addressing the community's needs.
This manipulation, nobody likes being manipulated. And when you get here, you know that's exactly what's happening.
The lack of leadership in both towns has led to growing frustration among residents who say they feel abandoned by their elected officials. Mabton, for example, has been struggling with long-standing water quality issues, something residents say should be a top priority. Instead, they've watched as Ruelas' time and energy have been consumed by legal battles and public controversies. In Dolton, residents have voiced similar concerns, pointing out that basic services like snow removal and animal control have been neglected under Henyard's leadership. Both mayors frequently promise to work for the people, but their critics argue that their actions tell a different story. So, what does the future hold for Rachel Ruelas and Tiffany Henyard? For Ruelas, the recall efforts pose an immediate threat to her position, and if they succeed, she could be ousted from office within months. For Henyard, the stakes are even higher. With a federal investigation looming and her re-election campaign underway, her political career hangs in the balance. Both mayors face an uphill battle to regain the trust of their communities, but the odds don't look good. Despite the mounting scandals, both Ruelas and Henyard still have their supporters. Some argue that the controversies surrounding them are overblown, driven by political opponents looking to unseat them. In Mabton, a handful of residents have defended Ruelas, saying she's being unfairly blamed for issues that existed long before she took office. Similarly, Henyard has a loyal base in Dolton who credit her for being the first woman to hold the mayoral position and for her efforts to bring attention to the town's challenges. But even their supporters admit that the swirl of accusations has made it difficult to focus on the progress they claim to have achieved.
Friday, but was met by this sign.
Okay, here I am, and they disappeared now.
As these stories unfold, they serve as a grim reminder of how quickly small-town politics can descend into chaos. Ruelas and Henyard are more than just controversial figures. They've become symbols of what can go wrong when leaders lose sight of their responsibilities. And while their supporters may argue that they're being unfairly targeted, the evidence suggests otherwise. From budget scandals and public brawls to allegations of corruption and misconduct, their actions have left their towns in turmoil.
Our job is to govern, to provide a way, provide services. And we're not doing that because they're stalling government, gridlocking it, because they can't have their way.
But here's where it gets interesting. Are Ruelas and Henyard victims of political smear campaigns, or are they architects of their own downfalls? Is this just another case of small-town drama getting blown out of proportion, or is there something deeper at play? And perhaps the most important question, what will it take for their communities to heal? Let us know what you think in the comments. Are these mayors misunderstood leaders caught in the crossfire, or are they examples of everything that's wrong with local politics? And who do you think will face the harshest consequences, Ruelas, Henyard, or both? One thing's for sure, this drama is far from over. Stay tuned, because the next twist in this story could be just around the corner.